in interviews on most media platforms which you've been keenly monitoring, you've actually referred to the Energy Ministry's investigative committee as a mere waste.
Ghana already had a challenge with the integrity of fuels that we sell to people, the quality. We've had issues with even diesel, the sulfur content that was too high. We've been able to get that addressed. So whilst we come to petrol and look at issues surrounding petrol as to whether the RON 91 specification is even good enough or we need to move up, you also have these illegal operators, what we will call petroleum guarantees, operating alongside the legal system. So where you have the regulated players downstream, the BDCs, OTCs, OMCs, and others, you also have an illegal system that operates side by side. And what happens with these illegal guys is the need to make quick money. And how would they make quick money? Some of the petroleum products are downgraded and of low value. Kerosene is considered low value, premix is considered low, naphtha is probably not even to be sold. But what happens is if you add any of these bad products or substandard products to diesel, you will still get diesel, but the efficiency of diesel would greatly be reduced. And so you will not have the same diesel that your engine would have been comfortable running with, but your engine will run. The lapses with it is that eventually it will break down your engine after some time. And so we have had cause of concern. If you remember, it was put on record that last year Ghana lost 850 million Ghana cedis to the activities of these illegal operators. Monies that the state would have been due, taxes that the state would have had to receive. These illegal operators, because they are not known to the law and by the law, operate, nobody is taking a peso from them. They have these tank yards, very huge tank yards, dotted across the Tema, Bonkatamanso, Ashaiman, Gulf City areas. These are visible tank yards. What is difficult, however, is that these are tank yards with very high, tall walls, and so from outside you cannot tell what they are doing in there. But they have big tanks buried in there, which can hold about 500,000 liters, as happened already in the case of Zouk Oil. We are saying that these illegal facilities are definitely churning out products that are not good enough for the market, and eventually finds its way to the market because already some fuel stations are hard pressed. If you sell today to get a profit of 4,000, your electricity bills alone consumes about 2,500. You haven't paid pump attendants, you haven't paid station managers, you haven't paid for other supplies to the station. So because the stations, some are already hard pressed, if these illegal guys come with downgraded products that sells for 2 cedi 60 pesos, that is cheaper. Some have the tendency to want to mix these bad products with what the OMC itself has brought to them. So you take an OMC, a bigger company that brings product to a fuel station. It comes to deposit 40,000. The station sells 10,000. Instead of waiting to finish all 30 and getting another consignment, it decides to top up the 10,000 that is sold with the bad fuel underground. What happens is that the fuel that the consumer is paying premium for now gets greatly contaminated in a way. And because you cannot use the naked eye to tell this product has been mixed with premise fuel or kerosene or some other low-grade naphtha or something, it becomes a lot difficult for the consumer to protest when he's being served those products. So the challenge exists already. The illegal facilities are already putting bad products out there. Then you fast forward to June 20th, our investigations point to the fact that BOST had sold contaminated fuel, 5 million liters, to a company called Movimpina without any track record, any known storage. One would have expected BOST to deny the story, because clearly if you're throwing out there 5 million, it has alternate use. If people decide not to use 5 million liters for bitumen, which we doubt Ghana will be able to process anyway, and they decide to go and mix those products further, then you would inconvenience the motoring public a lot more. What we heard from BOST initially is that the product couldn't have been blended because TOR is not working. We falsified that claim because you don't need TOR refinery to be working to blend products. You can blend in two ways, in tank or tank to tank, where you move product from one tank to the other, so that the volume of product in the other tank could dissolve the contaminants. You could equally decide to do injection. Put more fuel into the tank that is contaminated to a point such it would be able to neutralize or dissolve it to a point and continue, dissolving it. BOST didn't think of the public good. BOST didn't think of the revenue to the state. BOST didn't think of the company itself. The management didn't think of the company itself, because the product that has today X refinery at 1.86 was willing to downgrade the product and sell it at 1.3, meaning that BOST itself will lose revenue. The state cannot recover any taxes whatsoever from that transaction. The public now also gets to worry because BOST has also gone to add further problems to the problems already existing in the system. Now, if you look at the decision taken by BOST, every single step of the decision is fraught with some inconsistency, and that is why it wasn't surprising to some of us when BOST was caught lying. Openly that no product had left its depots. When we pushed further, they said only 100,000 liters had left. NPA comes in to do an investigation. NPA says 471,000 is already out there. NPA has to take about 3-4 days to be able to tell that the product we said had left BOST is in the tanks of Zoop oil, and that we hadn't even found one truck. And the following day they come back to say they found a truck, they are testing and all of those things. Meaning that BOST had done a transaction of that magnitude, 5 million liters, which is about how much you would need to fill 100 filling stations. That is the size of the volume of product we are discussing. BOST had gone ahead to dump the product to a private company called Movimpina, whose registration itself is already questionable. Then we get to a point where BOST now starts making excuses that it had done due diligence and had been responsible, and that Movimpina was going to sell to garment manufacturers and to bitumen processing plants. But look at the transaction details. Movimpina doesn't sell to any garment, doesn't sell to any bitumen, goes on to sell to the illegal guys already creating problems for us. And so one will ask, what really was the motive? Is it that those who took the decision had some other benefits that would accrue to them if they downgraded the product to contaminated status, which they could have cleaned and gotten maximum or optimum market value for? Or they were just doing so because somebody somewhere would have ended up giving them money somewhere to do what they did? But the public interest was also not taken into consideration. 5 million contaminated liters, if even 10 liters found its way into people's tanks, the damage would BOST be willing to compensate those people for. But there was BOST, a company that you and I continue to fund with 3 pesos per liter of every fuel you consume in this country, now telling us that it had dumped 5 million liters onto a company, offloaded 5 million onto a company with no known storage, nor no known expertise to manage or handle same. BOST was confident that they had done this and it was the best transaction that Ghanaians should expect from them. Ghanaians should applaud them. We call for investigation, ministry comes out to say it was setting up an 8-member investigative committee. We all applaud the committee, only to end up having the same ministry do a U-turn a week later to come out and say that BNI has done some investigation, BNI has cleared BOST of any wrongdoing. I do not know where else in the world, if not Ghana, that people take such funny decisions that goes against public interest, and we are told that those people are clear, they did nothing wrong. We question the basis of the BNI investigation. We would want to know what they set out to look for, who they asked questions from, what they did with the public, what they did with institutions that are speaking against the BOST issue, what they did with findings that MPA itself had already put out there, that BOST had transacted with illegal entities. That alone would serve as a basis for some legal challenges. So we are not surprised that a group is already in court challenging BOST, MPA and others. Clearly, the whole process has been handled so badly. Today as we speak, if you drive through the streets of Ashaiman, if you drive through Pong, if you go through Temoyo refinery area, these boys we call Billy Billy are selling petroleum products openly.
That's true.
And is the NPA saying they are not aware that per their own act, section 11, if you are not licensed to handle petroleum products, you shouldn't do so. The NPA itself is not aware that fuel is today being sold like tomatoes on tabletops, in gallons, in unauthorized places, endangering not only those engaged in these illegal activities, but people around who may not even know that fuel is being stored in these quantities, in these places. If there is any fire, the innocent people that will be caught in it, who will come back and say, oh, that government is going to pay. Do we wait till we get to that point, or NPA would also act? In fact, if you look at the ministry down to NPA to BOST, the consuming public today are left with very little, very little hope that these guys are there to work for the interest of the public. If you look at the fact that there's already a challenge out there, illegal tank yards are mixing products. BOST also gets a contamination situation, and the best BOST can do is to offload all 5 million from a secured bonded depot to unlicensed places. And the excuse is that we are selling to government and bitumen. Yet none of the off-takers that came after Mobimpina had gotten the product were either government or bitumen. So clearly there's something shady. A lot of questions remain unanswered. We do not accept the BNI report that comes to make clearance of people for bad decisions taken not in the public interest, not in the state's interest, not in BOST's own interest, but in their own personal interest. These people are cleared, and we are supposed to be happy and clap for them. We are calling on the president to ensure that he sets up an external investigative body to probe this matter further, so that the public would have that confidence restored back into our petroleum system. Because today, like I indicated, there's an overwhelming evidence out there that there's a lot of bad products out there being handled by people not licensed to do so, being handled at unauthorized places by unauthorized people, and the system is not able to deal with it. Yet, no wrongdoing is recorded, everybody is clean, the system should continue running, yet we sit on time bombs in this country. We would want to get to the bottom of this, and we believe that the only individual now who can save the situation is the president himself and not the ministry.
So do you actually believe that the call is going to yield a positive result? Because looking at some civil society organizations like Imani Africa, some NGOs calling on government to actually have action, to take action, and if they talk about action, real action, do you think this is really going to yield a positive result?
Indeed, it could not have been said that ASAP, COPEC, Imani, Stranek, IES, Seaboard, Indeed, I heard the good old Kweku Bako himself criticizing the process is untidy, CDD. Most civil societies that have gone into this issue are all calling for further investigations. And if we insist from the ministry level that BNI has done a thorough job, people are cleared, there's nothing to investigate, and now the new focus of the committee is going to be how to prevent contamination, let us point out to the ministry that if you need standard operating procedure, you don't need a committee. You need a few technical people, 1, 2, 3 days. They can be able to design SOPs for BOST. If that is all the committee is going to do, then let him go ahead and dissolve the committee completely. The terms of reference of the committee, we were interested in how contamination came about, who caused contamination, how the dumping of the products, the processes that led to BOST deciding to dump 5 million. Who took what decision? Why was that decision taken? Can we question the decisions and the chains of, command? If there's nothing to investigate further and that we are only going to now, like the ministry will put it, design standard operating procedure for BOST, we don't need an 8-member committee. A few technical people can be able to advise the ministry and BOST on how to avoid contamination, which is basic anyway in petroleum. So we are saying that the minister himself has compromised his own committee that he set up from the onset by coming out to insist that one of the agencies he himself had added to the committee, the BNI National Security, has gone ahead to do its investigations, and their investigations are conclusive, such that the BNI was now asking for the committee to be set aside. And so you end up wondering what is in all of this that the BNI is afraid independent bodies that were going to constitute the committee would go into, for which the BNI has to jump ahead. If BNI had made findings, they are part of the committee, they should have sent those findings to the committee to be interrogated by other members. Unfortunately, the ministry says it accepts BNI findings and nothing anybody else says matters. We believe that the committee has already been compromised even before it sits, and for that matter, we do not trust that the committee should work any further. We expect an independent external investigative body, either IOCO, SHRAJ, or a presidential commission, to delve into this matter, look at ways of curtailing the growing or the creeping menace of illegal structures now handling fuel products, such that they can mix anything with anything and sell anything to anyone unsuspectingly. We are insisting that further and much better investigation be done into this matter, so that the confidence the public had in the downstream could be effectively restored, and the fuel stations who may be suffering bad sales today because people are afraid whether BOST products is coming out to them or bad products from these illegal operators is coming out to them. We need to restore that confidence so that the OMCs can go about their business in a much better fashion.
Moving forward, how do you think the allegations within the downstream sector in the petroleum industry can be tackled with strong political will?
The president will have to step in. I have said elsewhere that if indeed the president is committed, interested, and very excited about fighting the illegal activities downstream, he would have to involve the military, because most of these facilities we are talking about are heavily guarded. And it is not surprising when MPA makes a statement that suggests they are unable to do so without the external agencies coming on board. These are places that at the end of the year are shortchanging the state to the tune of 850 million Ghana cedis. It is not a small cartel, it's not a small mafia, it is not a small group that is operating, and this group is well funded by proceeds that genuinely should go to the state. It is well funded by proceeds that the OMCs should have made. These cartel are making those monies, and they are becoming more entrenched by the day. We call on the president to act immediately. Other than that, the longer this problem takes, the more entrenched these guys get. And now, anybody that talks about this issue becomes a target. And they wouldn't mind going after any human being that exposes them, because the money is there, they are still making money. Why would you want to discuss them to bring them up for their businesses to collapse, the illegal businesses to collapse? We are insisting that
the Ghanaian consumer would need absolute confidence in the downstream. And we believe that where it has gotten to, the president might have to step in and authorize the military to go ahead and demolish all those illegal structures that are holding and storing fuel illegally.
Well, you recently alleged that the sale of contaminated fuel by BOST is a deliberate orchestration. What do you mean by that comment?
Indeed. What I'm saying is this. BOST gets contamination, was it the 18th of January? Every remedial action available is available to BOST. BOST deals in volumes in excess of 450 million. And per our technical checks, BOST would have needed a maximum 95 million liters to correct the contamination. BOST deals with over 450 million liters. BOST needed just about 95 million to correct the contamination. BOST decides I will not correct the contamination. First wrong decision. BOST decides I would sell the contaminated product anyway and I will dump it. Who do we sell to? Do we sell to a licensed firm, a registered firm? Because of the volumes involved, a known firm would have been more appropriate because you are not talking about 50,000, 100,000. I've heard people say in the past bad products were sold or slop was sold. None of those products sold per our checks exceeded 200,000 liters to one company. And so when you decide to offload 5 million bad fuel from your tanks you are evacuating, one would have decided that BOST will do better diligence, due diligence, and even go through a BDC. BOST now decides to deal with a company whose existence is already shady, whose existence in law is questionable, whose mandate with the law or mandate to handle petroleum products is equally in dispute because MPA says it does not know them. BOST goes ahead to sell to this company, and BOST goes ahead to defend that it sold to Movinpina, whose credibility is in question here because Movinpina says it is going to sell to garment and bitumen processing plants. Movinpina does a quick turnaround and comes to BOST to say, I authorize you to release 2 million liters of the contaminated product, not to a garment factory or a garment processing, nor a bitumen processing, but release to, Mark West, another illegal firm. Release the product to Zoop Oil, an illegal firm that is already holding products. It is unauthorized to do so. So clearly, every step of the decision, every step of the process is fraught with questions that a thorough investigation would be able to establish. It looks as though what we are being given is a summary dismissal of the issues to say BOST has done nothing wrong, no product has gone into the system. Meanwhile, as we speak, even to account for the volumes in question, it took the MPA 3 days. The products were evacuated, MPA did not know about it. If you check MPA's initial findings, it was not aware BOST had evacuated products. So if the public had not spoken about this, would BOST have pumped out all 5 million? Whose interest was it going to serve? Who was making money? Who was not going to make money? Who was going to be inconvenienced? Was the state going to benefit from such a bad decision? Clearly, there still remain a lot more questions to be answered in all of this. And we are again calling on the president to set up an independent body of inquiry into this matter, to bring the necessary answers. Whoever is culpable should be punished. Whether it happened in 2013 and is wrong, 2014 and is wrong, investigate all, so that the crooks that hide behind or within the systems to operate illegally and enrich themselves whilst our engines go bad, we shouldn't spare them and decide, you did this in the past, you have done this today, and so we have all done that, and so we should continue as Ghanaians to be inconvenienced. We are calling on a proper investigation to be carried out in this matter, to bring the matter to rest in a way that Ghanaians can widely accept. But what is happening today is unacceptable.
So how do we substantiate your claims of insider hands and the sale of those contaminated fuel?
A company that is not already in existence a company that is not even set up. It looks as though it was set up primarily to buy 5 million liters. Because they have started negotiating for the product 19th, when it had not even gone through with its own registration with the Registrar General. A company that does not exist suddenly comes into being, suddenly gets 5 million liters to buy, and they buy the product on open credit. Listen to me, open credit. What it means is that take the product away, go and sell, bring me back my money. No guarantees, no money, no checks up front. Take the money, the product, go and sell. It never happens even in petroleum 50,000 liter transaction. Before somebody supplies you product, you must have made some commitment. BOST as a state entity is willing to transact with a company whose directors today we cannot tell. A company whose assets we cannot hold. A company whose base, whose track record we do not have the capacity to verify because it doesn't exist. BOST is able to transact 5 million liters, that huge quantity, open credit. If it is not insider trading, if people are not behind all of this to enrich themselves, the back door, one will wonder what else would inform such reckless, bad decision.